4 o'clock, and we are going to have the webinar for NCEES called Beginning of Year Principles 2021. And today's slide, bit.ly, is on the screen currently. I do want to give a quick check to make sure everybody can see and hear. So we'll go to the next slide, but the link is posted in your chat. And I will post it one more time just to make sure everybody has that that has just joined us. Oh, I think I'm sending it to Kim and not to everybody. Let me change that. All right, now you guys have the link to today's slides. There are some links within the slides if you'd like to open those up, and you can take notes at the bottom of your own copy. So we are in Webex training now as opposed to GoToMeeting that we had last year. This is Kim and I's second event with Webex. The first one went okay. My recording was a little wonky, so I've got a new microphone, so I hope this works good today. In your webinar bar, you can, sometimes it's docked on your computer at the top or the bottom, or you may see it off to the side or separately, depending on how you came into the system. There are talk bubbles to open your chat panel. Depending on whether you're on a PC or a Mac, you may see different icons. And you can put questions either in the Q&A or in the chat. Kim and I will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A. Most of us will probably be communicating in the chat. All right. If you have any audio issues, just let us know. We'll try to help you out. There should be in your panel an audio little section that you can click on and test your audio for your microphone and your input and your output for your sound. All right, and we are working for NCDPI, and we do work with the NCEES system. And I work in the home-based area. I am Cammie Nairn. I am the Education Product Consultant for NCEES and Learning.com, and today we're presenting NCEES. And I'd like to introduce Kim Simmons in the Educator Support Department. Kim, would you like to say hi?
Good afternoon. I'm so glad to see so many people joining us today and getting off on the right foot with NCEES this year. This is very exciting, so thanks for having me, Cammie. Thanks for leading this webinar.
Thank you, Kim. Kim is my right-hand man. She answers a lot of the policy questions, and then I can answer your system questions. So thank you guys for joining today. A little bit of webinar norms. Just make sure everybody's minimized your outside distractions. I know my puppy's outside the door right now. And then be attentive and participate. Please notify us if you're having technical difficulties. There is a hand that you can raise in your panel. We'll try to watch for those, or just put a question in the chat and then use that chat or Q&A on your dashboard to ask those questions. We will have a follow-up email about 24 hours after the end of the webinar, depending on if we have a lot of frequently asked questions that I need to go through. It may take a little bit longer for that email to go out. And there is a feedback survey at the end of the webinar. Your certificate of completion to earn that 0.1 credit will be, you must fill out that feedback survey, and then it will shoot the certificate to you once you submitted that. It will take a couple minutes, but you should get that in your email. We'll also have a link to the recording of the webinar, and we are housing those right now on YouTube. We have a NCEES channel on YouTube, so check that out. I am busy uploading last year's webinars as well. And then we'll also include links to resources that we discussed during the webinar and answer those frequently asked questions or any other questions that were remaining from the webinar. All right, our agenda for today is how to access NCEES, review the teacher evaluation process, confirm your staff lists and plan types, review assigning rights to those staff plans, and then we'll go thoroughly through your principal, or starting your principal evaluation process and beginning your principal evaluation. Up to date, we have our superintendents, our principals, and anybody that deals with teacher evaluation process or principal evaluation process. All right, Kim, do we have any questions before we start? Is everybody able to access the slides? Okay?
No questions at this time, Cammie.
Thank you. All right, if you're brand new to NCEES and you've gotten your, I'm sorry for my phone notifications. My sisters are having a good time. Accessing NCEES, you would go to our single sign-on system, and that's NCEES Cloud IAM. And the URL for that is my.ncedcloud, NCEEDcloud.org. I do want to turn this on. Okay, so we're going to my.ncedcloud.org to log in, and this is your single sign-on system. You will put in your 10-digit UID. If you're totally brand new, you've never been in a North Carolina public or charter school that has had NCEES, you would first claim your account before you log in. Your district can give you directions on that. Once you've put in your username, you'll then enter your UID password and click Go. Your dashboard will load up, and you're looking for a blue or cyan blue letter P that has Unified Talent underneath, and in the gray bar below it says NCEES, North Carolina Educator Effectiveness System, and you'll click on that to open NCEES. Principals, you're going to land on your home page, and this is what it looks like, and we're going to go quickly through this because we want to get into the explanation of how to do those evaluations and have enough time for that. So your home page buttons are all showing up here that principals see, and up at the top you have some little icons. If messages have been sent through the system, they'll show up in the envelope. The calendar icons go under the calendar with the star in it. And on the home page, if you scroll down, depending on the size of your window, you'll see upcoming events. And then vendor guides, help guides, are under the question mark. You can search there. And they don't have really any PDF documents you can print out, but they have good illustrations and screenshots of what's in the system. The other place messages now show up are when you navigate to My Evaluation. If I've sent out messages or your district is sending out messages in NCEES, they'll show up beside your evaluations as a column for your messages. There is a new Help Guides page, and I hope it's a little bit easier to find your documents now. So you can go to Help Guides, and at the top of the page should be your plan help guide. And I've divided those out by the plan types, giving you the explanation of what's required for each plan type, and then giving you the evaluator's guide, the teacher's support staff guide, and any additional guides that might deal with that plan. So the peer observation guide is tied to the comprehensive plan because it's required, but you can use it for any other plan as well. And then professional development plan guides are here. We are in the process of updating these to 2020 guides, but you can still use these guides that are dated 2018 and 2019. The steps are essentially the same, and then we'll get those new ones out hopefully before the end of the month. District site, you're a site administrator. If you're a principal, a head principal, assistant principals, you are coming to the system as users. But if you are assigned site administrator rights, there's some guides for you here as well to assign those plan types, access rights, and do those locking activities. So let's look at the teacher evaluation process, and I'll turn this over to Kim Simmons.
Hi, Cammie. We have a couple of people that's maybe struggling with audio, so I just told them to check their audio at the top of the page. So while I'm going through this, if you want to.
Yes, I'll look. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, to begin with, we want to kick off the evaluation, the educator evaluation process, and make sure that we communicate that the evaluation is about growth. The North Carolina Department of Public Instruction stands firmly that the educator evaluation is about growth and improvement of teacher practices. Too often, the evaluation process is viewed as a gotcha or a way to get rid of a teacher, and that is not the purpose of the North Carolina evaluation. The teacher evaluation policy states that the intended purpose of the North Carolina teacher evaluation process is to assess the teacher's performance in relation to the North Carolina professional teaching standards and to design a plan for professional growth. So now let's take a look at the beginning of the year orientation. For NCEES information and resources, we have this NCEES Google site that you see on the slide. The arrow is pointing to a new page. Well, it was new last year, but it's a new page to a lot of people called the beginning of the year orientation page. So this was created at the request of administrators across the state for support with the orientation at the beginning of the year when so much is going on. This is an easy one-stop place for you to find the resources that you need for orientation. So beginning of the year orientation, staff should have a face-to-face or a virtual orientation meeting to openly discuss questions and to gain clarification regarding NCEES. We recommend that staff view the North Carolina Teacher Orientation recorded webinar, the presentation that's found on the beginning of the year page that we just mentioned in the prior slide. And prior to orientation, we suggest that principals send a reminder email regarding the orientation meeting and provide a link to the NCEES Google site where all of the evaluation information and resources are housed. Then at the bottom of this slide, you see 3 required resources. Again, this is here for your convenience. We've included the policy for evaluation 004, and then next over at the bottom in green, you see the rubric for evaluating teachers. This rubric we use to evaluate teachers as it reflects the North Carolina Professional Teaching Standards. And remember that this rubric is a multi-purpose rubric. It's used throughout the year for self-assessment, observations, and the summative evaluation. And then the last required document is the schedule provided by you, the principal. This schedule, it doesn't necessarily have to be specific, but instead the schedule can provide just a guideline. For example, that round 1 of observations will be complete by August 1st. It can be that vague.
I wonder if I started the music.
Sorry. So
you got this, Kim?
Yeah. So the NCEES 2020 to 21 coming soon. We have remote instruction and observation guidance preview. So let's take a look at the orientation, which should happen within the first 10 days, and that will include step 1, component 2 of the annual evaluation process. Let me see here. Amy?
Yeah, did you lose it?
Yep, I think we're having a little.
All right. Is everybody still seeing the screen? All right. So I think they're seeing it, Kim.
Okay. Well, I'll just continue. I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
But, that's okay. I have it pulled up on a different screen.
Okay.
So moving along to the professional development plans, these can be reviewed virtually or face-to-face. So review the PDP during the pre-observation conference, which is step 2. And we'll look closer at this when we're looking at the teacher evaluation process as a whole. And the PDPs are more critical this year than ever because many or most of the PDPs this year will include intentional learning to facilitate remote instruction. And this will help teachers start the year out with the most aligned support. And then moving to number 3, observations, we ask that you continue to follow the process as it lends itself to virtual or face-to-face instruction. and that's step 3, component 5 of the annual evaluation process. Observations will be expected regardless of the instructional model in place. Formal guidance regarding the expectations for observations, summative evaluations, and guidance for the meeting policy and statutory requirements are forthcoming from DPI, and these documents are currently under review. So kind of what this says is that we have some formal instruction coming. It's just not been vetted out and been approved yet to be pushed out, but we do know what that's going to look like, which is the teacher evaluation process is going to remain the same, except we are going to adhere to and include virtual and blended instruction as well as face-to-face instruction like we have recognized before.
All right, thank you, Kim. We're going to go into the teacher evaluation process steps.
Okay.
All right.
So again, this year, when school begins, regardless of the instructional model, schools will not be in an enrichment and engagement only model. And that's as things were from March until June of this past year. This was a new situation for us, a new response. It was a lot of reaction rather than the ability to be proactive. So that's what the time between March and June turned into, which was just enrichment and engagement only. But however, now teachers will begin moving forward with standards and curriculum for all students. And for this reason, we do not anticipate that any NCEES requirements will be altered or suspended.
Okay.
So here is the teacher evaluation process one-pager that you can find on page 21 of the process manual. And this resource allows you to see all 4 steps of the process in its entirety. Notice that step 1 begins in the green on the top left and circles around clockwise. Today, we will only focus on the first 3 steps. Highlighted in green, we'll talk about training and orientation. Highlighted in purple, we'll look at the self-assessment, goal setting, and pre-conference. Highlighted in pink is the observation cycle. And as I mentioned before, step 4, highlighted in light blue, will be covered at the end of the year when we meet again for principals.
Okay, component 1.
Okay, component 1. Training. This states, before participating in the evaluation process, all teachers, principals, and peer evaluators must complete training on the evaluation process. So I encourage each of you to check the NCEES Google site for NCEES webinars, and remember that you have access to the PD system housed within NCEES online tool where you can find modules, courses, presentations, and resources to support your professional development. So this training is owned by the individual LEA. Different LEAs have different types of trainings they like to use, but just want to remind you that training is available online within our PD system, located in within the online tool.
Component 2.
So orientation. This component states that within 2 weeks of the teacher's first day, the principal will provide those 3 things we mentioned earlier, which is the rubric, the policy, and then your schedule for completing the evaluation process.
Component 3.
The teacher self-assessment. Using the rubric for evaluating North Carolina teachers, the rubric that was given out during orientation, the teacher shall rate his or her performance and reflect on their performance throughout the year. The self-assessment should be a personal reflection about one's professional practice to identify strengths and areas of improvement. A teacher's self-assessment should be completed without input from others, and that's very important for the validity of this evaluation process. Purposes of the self-assessment are to clarify performance expectations, to guide discussions about goal setting and professional development. It may guide program needs, and it's used to provide input to the final ratings at the end of the year. The self-assessment is a tool you can review and change throughout the year. Teachers may choose to share their self-assessment with their principals, or Teachers may choose not to share their self-assessment.
Okay.
Now,
Component 4.
Component 4, the goal of the pre-observation conference is to prepare the principal for the observation. Before the first formal observation, the principal meets with the teacher to discuss 3 things. First, the self-assessment. Whether it was shared with the principal or not, there is still a conversation that can be generated between the principal and the teacher regarding the self-assessment. We'll also discuss the professional growth plan and a written description of the lessons to be observed. So for now, let's take a closer look at those professional development plans so we understand who has which plan.
Okay.
So there are 3 types of professional growth plans. We have the individual PDP, the monitored PDP, and the directed PDP. Remember that PDPs serve as a roadmap for teacher growth. They may include individual goals, school goals, and district goals. However, I want to highly star that the individual goals is what's closest to the teacher's practice and what is most important. We encourage you to align teacher PDPs also with your school improvement plan if it allows itself. This alignment will strengthen and streamline all of your improvement conversations. So new teachers and teachers who are rated at least proficient on all standards on the teacher summary rating form, this is from the previous year, shall develop an individual growth plan. So again, new teachers and those that had at least proficient on all the standards. The teachers set individual goals for growth, and then they meet with their administrator 3 times during the year to discuss. And this can be at the beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of the year. Then next, a teacher shall be placed on a monitored growth plan whenever he or she is rated developing on 1 or more standards on the teacher summary rating form. The administrator and teacher will meet to discuss and set goals together. So the individual teacher will not be setting their goals individually. They will meet, discuss, and together create their goals, their PDP goals for that year. Then, of course, they should meet at least 3 times during the school year. Directed growth plans are for teachers rated not demonstrated on any standard on the teacher summary rating form or developing on 1 or more standards for 2 sequential years. In this case, the administrator sets goals for the teacher based on observations and documentation. That's really important here that the goals that you set, that they are data-driven goals. Then the administrator meets with the teacher to review the development plan, and following, they would meet at least 3 times during the year to discuss. We recommend that you meet monthly when you're on a directed PDP plan. So the directed growth plan shall, at a minimum, identify standards and elements to be improved, the goals to be accomplished, and the activities the teacher shall complete to achieve proficiency, and of course a timeline for achieving proficiency within 1 year or a shorter time, however determined by the LEA. A directed growth plan, this is very important, is not an action plan for dismissal. Remember, our evaluation in North Carolina is about growth and improvement. So the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System is about growth. Your local school board should have a separate policy addressing the dismissal of a teacher. Only if the local school board policy specifically identifies the directed growth plan as an action plan for dismissal may it be used as such. And please remember to use your self-assessment as a guide for creating PDP goals.
Okay, component 4.
Yeah, so lastly, the written description of the lesson to be observed is the 3rd discussion topic of the conference. This is a chance for you to showcase your teaching practices, for your teachers to showcase their teaching practices. Also, remember that you want your teacher to share the culture of the class with you, prepare you for patterns and behaviors that may exist. A teacher should share how that they may be proactive when planning lessons to ensure student success for all students. And also, some principals may provide questions to answer for the pre-conference, or they may provide an outline for the conversation. Providing your lesson plan may be an option for teachers. That'll be totally up to you as a principal if you want that. It is important to remember that the teacher should be leading this conversation to prepare you for the observation.
Okay. Are you seeing the screen now, Kim?
No, but okay. I'm following along on my own, so
okay,
on my own screen. So component 5, observations. This is when the evaluator checks descriptors of the rubric while watching a lesson. And we know that this may look differently this year, so we consider online instruction. You could watch that lesson. You could be a part of that online instruction for your observations. Just a little tidbit there. There are 2 types of observations, though, formal and informal. Formal observations last 45 minutes or the entire class period, and informal observations last at least 20 minutes. So that's the only difference between the formal and informal observation is the time that you spend completing the observation. A post-conference is not required for an informal observation, but can be requested by the teacher. Teachers with less than 3 years employment will be on the comprehensive evaluation cycle consisting of 3 formal observations from the principal or designee and 1 formal observation from a peer. Teachers with more than 3 years employment will be on the standard or abbreviated evaluation cycle. The standard cycle requires 3 observations, 1 must be formal, and the abbreviated cycle includes 2 observations on standards 1 and 4. Abbreviated observations may be formal or informal.
Okay.
So our next slide, here is just a chart, and we can put a link to this, and it can also be found on the NCEES Google site. This is just a chart that more clearly outlines the requirements of each cycle. The cycle types are listed on the right side, and the components of the process are provided across the top.
That's observations.
To further understand observations, we ask that you consider the year-long evaluation process as a series of formative assessments or observations. During observations, data is collected using the rubric. The misconception that teachers are evaluated and rated numerous times during the year has burdened the focus of growth intended for the process. Everyone is evaluated annually 1 time at the end of each school year, at which time ratings are assigned to each standard. So remember, the observation is just one collection of data to inform the evaluation at the end of the year. As a result of the observation, we have component 6, the post-observation conference. The principal shall conduct a post-observation conference no later than 10 school days after each formal observation. The purpose of the post-observation conference is to discuss and document strengths and weaknesses of the rubric. I get this question a lot. If I've waited more than 10 days to have the post-observation conference, can I still do it? I would advise you, do not do it. The feedback that you're going to provide the teacher, if it's more than 10 school days later, it's really not relevant any longer. So that's a missed opportunity. So you would need to redo the observation in order to give effective feedback. So let's remember the slide when I emphasize the purpose of the evaluation is about growth and improvement. The post-observation conference is the heart of what we are working to accomplish, and that is growth for teachers. The post-observation conference should focus on the evidence gathered during the observation. Teachers should have an opportunity to reflect on the observation as it relates to the rubric. Observers should focus on providing relevant feedback on marked descriptors and how to grow forward for improved practices. The language of the rubric should be used to ensure an accurate interpretation of the standards. So I get a lot of questions from new assistant principals and principals, about that coaching conversations afterwards. I just strongly recommend that you use the language of the rubric to discuss growth for teachers. The post-observation conference is a crucial component of the evaluation process, and the meeting between the teacher and observer provides an opportunity for strengthened communication that results in a plan of continued improvement for the teacher's practice. Next slide.
Okay.
No one observation should fully inform a teacher rating. Post-observation conversations should be linked back to the descriptors, not to the rating categories.
And I was just going to put in a little tidbit here. On the screen, you're seeing those rating categories of developing, proficient, accomplished, and distinguished. And this year we've added the observation descriptors for knowledge, action, interaction, and extension to help further define that you are observing during observation and not rating. All right.
And if anyone has, yes, of course, and if anyone has, further questions or would like to discuss this, please reach out and let's have a conversation, or let me provide you with additional resources.
All right, we're going to move, thank you very much, Kim. We're going to move right into confirming your staff list and plan types. And in the interest of time, I'm going to try probably just to stick to the slides. However, if you do want to see this in live site, please just put in the chat and we will jump over there to the live site. I realize we may have some brand new people that may need to see that. We did do a webinar last week that covered a lot of what you're getting ready to see. And if you watched that webinar, we did go in the live site and walk through a lot of this. So first thing is to manage your staff rosters, and that is found in NCEES under My Staff. So you're looking at a screen now, and I've got the My Staff link highlighted up on the top right. A lot of the other areas that principals go to are your staff evaluations on the left. And I do get questions. I can't see my staff in staff evaluations. The first place you want to look is for your roster, and that is in My Staff. So go right straight to My Staff if you have issues seeing people in staff evaluations, because you're going to be able to answer a couple questions. One, are they in the staff roster list? And if yes, then you also need to look at their plan types. So somebody is going to be setting these plan types. A principal, a district administrator, or somebody else designated and given site administrator rights can set plan types. A lot of this is probably already done for you, but there are several schools just starting as well to set these plan types on this staff roster page. So once the plan types are set, it has to process overnight, and then people's names will start showing up when they start their plans. So they need to have their plan set, processed overnight. They need to see their plan, open it, and start it. Once they start it, you're going to see it in staff evaluations. Now, there's one exception to that. You're already going to see your principal plans in staff evaluations. We've already told the system to start the principal plan. It's not started any activities. It's just started enough so that you can see it on staff evaluations. It's because your district administrators are the ones that need to set the evaluators of the principals in staff evaluations, and they have help guides for that. So they're going to set access to a principal's plan, assigning a superintendent or who's ever designated to evaluate that principal under staff evaluations. And then keep in mind this bottom link on the left, evaluations. We have another slide that shows that you can go here to see if staff has started their plans. All right. And Kim, you just kind of interrupt me if you have any questions come in, please.
Okay.
Okay. So here is your assigned plan types guide, and it is linked here so you can get this. This is also posted on the NCEES website under the online resources, and it's also posted in NCEES under the Help Guides tab. So this is where we just looked at that same screen. We're going to set those plan types. Remember that principals don't get PDPs. If you accidentally set PDPs on a principal, they won't see it. The system knows not to populate that to a principal. Here's just a list of the plan types that you can assign: teachers, principals, school counselors, social workers, instructional tech facilitators, library media coordinators, school psychologists, career development coordinators, teacher leadership specialists. These are your certified staff that are in NCEES. Speech is not in here. You can also go to our Google site and look under support, and where you see all the manuals for support, the ones that have an asterisk, can remind me, they're the ones that are not in NCEES, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. So if you go out there, that's one place you can see should somebody be in NCEES. All right, and that's just a reminder about that overnight process, and do not assign principals PDPs. Try to assign those PDPs and plan types at the same time, because one informs the other and sets those correct rubrics. If a counselor opens up their rubric and they have a teacher rubric instead of a counselor rubric, please open a ticket and we'll get that sorted out. Whoever starts the observation can delete that rubric, and it should repopulate, as long as you've checked in My Staff that they have the correct plan type set along with their PDP type. So how to verify that staff has started their plans? We're gonna look at the next screen for the My Staff. We're going to click on that evaluation link, and then we're going to view that their plans that are assigned and processed overnight will show up, and you'll see a start word that says start, or a word that says edit. If you see edit, it means they've started their plan. If you see start, it means the staff have not started their plan. You technically could click start and start their plan, or you're going to call them or give them an email and say, please start your plan. That's your responsibility, is to start your plan. The other place where you go look is staff evaluations, and reminder again that staff names don't show up here unless they've started their plan. You're going to see staff twice here if they have an evaluation plan and a PDP, so you should see them twice in both of their plans. And then you'll see some icons on that page. On that page are going to be the not started icons, the gray, the in progress, the blue, and the complete icon will show on that page. The orange icon only shows up within the plan activities, and those are activities that are reopened or almost complete. So here's that screen where I've clicked on the evaluations link, and I get a page that says all staff. And if I have access to the staff, I'll see this drop-down More Options button. And when I open it up, I see the plan type. So here's a principal plan, and here's a PDP. And this is just a training account. So this is one that has a principal plan with a PDP, but know that you guys won't have that. If it says edit, the plan is already started. If it says start, this PDP plan has not been started. If you're missing staff from your roster list, there are some troubleshooting questions on this slide. Make sure your staff member has been added or updated on your district's HRMS, link, or other payroll vendor spreadsheet. What they do is export their payroll spreadsheets and upload it to Staff UID. From there, we have a nightly person import file for NCEES. We call it our TNL person import file. It pulls the data from Staff UID, and that comes from payroll. So you always go start with payroll to make sure they have the staff coded correctly and that they've uploaded that record to Staff UID. All right, and so do they have a correct salary code? I put a link here to this document. It has a list of all the salary codes that provision staff into NCEES. And then do they have an active yes in UID or an active no? The person import file looks for both of these. So if you have staff that are still showing up that left your district this year, go check with payroll. They need to upload this active no. They need to keep the same pay code in the same location so that when that person import file comes out here and looks for that code, then it will look for an active no or a yes and mark that person active or inactive in NCEES. And then if you need some help, just open up a ServiceNow ticket. Assigning staff access rights. So here's your guide for assigning staff access rights, and this was covered in the other webinar. So please do watch that if you want to go see it in live. So you're going to go open My Staff, Administration Staff Management, and then you're going to open a person's admin rights off that list on the Administration Staff Management page. When you open it up, you're going to see 4 steps. 1 is to choose your site. 2 is to choose your plans. I wanted to talk about choosing your plans here. If you come out here and there are no plans listed in the Choose Plans, it means you've not set your plan types on the My Staff page, or you've set them, but they've not processed overnight yet. So they need to have that overnight process. They need to be assigned before they show up here to assign access rights. So you can't set your peers or your mentors or your other evaluators until you've populated those plan types. And then I put a little screenshot of what you can assign on an evaluation, and that's evaluator, observer, peer observer, somebody to reopen activities, which your district administrator, if you've assigned one, already has those rights. The view only, which a lot of districts assign to their superintendents to have view only access to plans. And then the professional development plan, your PDPs, you can assign evaluators, mentors, that reopen admin, or view only on those plans. Notice that you can no longer, as of a year and a half, 2 years ago, set access right to a principal's plan. The only one that can do that is your district administrator. They're the only ones that can assign the evaluator of the principal. Reminder to principals, though, you already have access to your assistant principal plans because you come into the system as a site administrator. You're the only role that comes into the system with rights already coded. So you'll have evaluator access to your principals and your staff and your teachers. I'll let you read over this at your leisure. These are just explanations of each of those access rights. And then accessing your staff plans. So this is where you're going to navigate to staff evaluations. And real quick, I have a lot on this page. What you're going to see on staff evaluations is a list of everybody that has started their plans and each of the plans that they've started. So your evaluations, your PDPs, your principal plans will be listed here under where the red arrow is, and you're also going to see their name. If you want to open their plan, you're going to click their name. If you want to see everybody on a principal plan, you're going to click the plan name, and then you're going to get a list of everybody that's assigned a principal plan. Beside each name is a little pin, and this is for you to create your own list. You can only create one list at a time, but it's a way if you're working with, say, a certain group of beginning teachers. You can pin all your beginning teachers and then click Show My List, and it will reduce this list to only the people that you've pinned. Then if you need to work with a different group, you're going to need to unpin those and make your new list. Over on the left, our archive and delete is where district administrators can do that for the plans. And this little squares, a lot of people don't realize that you can message your staff. You can check the squares, and down at the bottom of the screen is a way to send a message or an email. Or you can leave them blank, and down at the bottom of the screen, tell it to message everybody. So this is a quick way to send a message. On the right, you're going to see progress status, where I have in purple. And this is where you're going to see those gray flowers. That means not started. Blue if they're in progress. Green if they're complete. This year, I don't have it on this screenshot, but you're going to be able to check your principal statuses as well. And then on the top right, a quick way to run reports. There's a download CSV for what's on the page. There's a little icon that looks like a graph icon where you can do evaluation completion reports. Those are up here. And then if you need to search for staff, if you have a lot of staff and they're not shown on the page, you have your search bars and you have your filters that are also very handy to use while searching. Any questions about that process? All right. Again, here's a look at your icons for completion status. All right, so we have about 15 minutes left, and we're going to get into your principal evaluation process. Turn it back over
So,
to Kim.
okay, so what I want to point out here is if you've pulled up the presentation in a different window where you've at least have the link in the chat bar, and when you do pull it up, know that you have access to this principal evaluation process. You just click it to open it. It's hot linked, and then over to the right, the entire principal evaluation manual is also linked there for you. So this principal evaluation process that you see on the screen, this is a one-pager outline of the evaluation process. It was developed for your convenience to show all 7 steps. The key in the top right-hand corner identifies documents in red that are required, green for optional forms that can be used to support your evaluation process, and the rest of the process typed in black is the required process as defined by the North Carolina State Board of Education. So any of the green documents that you see, those can all be found on the NCEES Google site on the principals page. So at the beginning of the year, you have the orientation where this is the meeting to distribute materials outlining the evaluation process. Then you move to step 2, which is the pre-evaluation planning, and this is when the principal or assistant principal completes their self-assessment. This is a required document within the tool, so remember that. And then performance goals. These are optional, but we do have a goal form that can be completed that's linked on the NCEES site, and it's highly recommended. This keeps everything or the goals outlined so they can be discussed throughout the year. Step 3, the initial meeting. This is a meeting to discuss the self-assessment, which was required, goal development, whether you put those goals in a form or not, you still want to discuss your goal development with your observer or your evaluator, and then evidence and data and artifacts that you will be collecting that will show your growth over the school year. The principal or assistant principal and superintendent or designee, you agree on the components of your meeting and confirm your level of performance. Step 4 is really about data. The principal collects data agreed upon as evidence to support the goals. And then this is mid-year. The superintendent or designee would visit to have a conversation and to check in on where you are in your growth. Step 5, mid-year conference. That's a meeting to discuss the progress of goal attainment, and school-wide student data growth should be available for review. Now remember, at this mid-year place, this would be growth data from the previous year. So I don't know if you weren't at that same school the year before, I'm not sure if the growth data could actually be applied to your evaluation, but it could certainly help you to generate your school-focused goals moving forward as an administrator. And then the end of the year, this is where you prepare a consolidated performance assessment, which is just a brief summary of steps 4 and 5, and it should be provided to the superintendent or their designee well in advance of step 7. And step 7 is the summer evaluation conference, and that is a meeting at the school site to discuss the self-assessment, which was a required document, the consolidated performance assessment, and number 3, the summary evaluation form, the rubric, which is a required document, and it would be completed beforehand.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. We're going to get into the principal evaluation process in the system. So here you're going to navigate to My Evaluations, and under your Current Evaluations tab will be your principal plan. It will already be in started status with the blue flower on the right. You can click the link to open up your plan. I did want to talk about these other 2 tabs out here. If you're still at the same location and you had an evaluation last year, your archive plan will be found under the archive evaluations. if you move school systems and if your previous school system has marked you inactive in Staff UID, your plan will have deactivated, and it will only be viewable to the owner, you, that owns the plan under the Deactivated Evaluations tab. Here are the two guides for the principal plan, one for the evaluator and one for the evaluatee on the right. So these are clickable, so you can open those and use those. So your first activity is your orientation activity. You'll open up that activity that has the orientation, click on orientation, click on edit, and then a window will pop up and you're going to put the date that you received orientation. Notice it has little asterisks, and those designate required fields. So it must be filled in, and then you're going to save and exit. Here's a bigger picture where you put in that date. Click Save and Exit. And at the top of your screen, you're going to see it has a Mark Complete button. If you back out of that page and go back to the activity page, you'll notice that orange icon. That means you have not yet marked this complete. It's still in progress, but it's almost complete. So you can come back in, hit the Mark Complete button, and you'll go back out again once it saves, and you'll get that green check that says this activity is complete. So you're also going to complete your pre-evaluation planning activity, and under there are two activities, your self-assessment and your performance goals that Kim talked about. So you would click in each of those, complete your self-assessment, and if you're putting your performance goals in the system, it does say it's required here. It has an asterisk, so if you click in here, you must fill out the required settings. So that needs to be done too. And then the other activities that are coming up are your initial meeting with your evaluator. And this is where that goal setting and evaluator's signature takes place, and the goal setting with the principal's signature also takes place. The data collection area is where you're going to store that data that you've been collecting, your artifacts, your notes. Your evaluator also has an evaluator notes area, and your rubric is also located in the data collection area. All right, does anybody need to see any of that in the live site, or do you have any questions about that?
No questions submitted at this time.
Yeah, I don't see any. I was trying to find my little Q&A panel, but I've lost it somewhere. All right, so we're going to go into our resources slides then. And we do want you to fill out this feedback before you leave us today. And we do have a few resource slides, so stay with us just a couple minutes longer.
Cammie, I do have a question that came in.
Okay.
Is completed NCEES evaluations for teachers in home base mandatory for charter schools?
It is not mandatory, but it is free. So everybody has the online tool. Charters, you can, if you opt into home base, that means you're like every other district, PSU. You can use a PD office in NCEES if you're going to set up your own professional development courses and learning opportunities. But to use the evaluation side of the NCEES component, you do not have to use it, but it's available to you.
I guess we need to say too, Cammie, that if you do not use this evaluation, the NCEES evaluation, you have to use one that is approved by the state and comparable to the one that is offered, correct?
Correct. So, and I don't know the whole process on that, but yes, you still have to do an evaluation. It does have to be turned in the NCDPI, but that would be Robert Sox's department, Tom Darwin's department, on how you set that up and where you need to turn those into.
So check with your charter school office.
Yes, thank you, Kim. All right, principals, you need to keep up your licensure as well as the teachers, and there are courses available in NCEES that you can take. So if you go to your professional development tab, you can do a course search for any of these courses here. I got these courses by searching for principal. I got that last course on the right by searching for administrator. But you can do different searches to find those relevant courses that you can take in NCEES and earn credit. And it will put those credits on your transcript. You'll get a certificate that you can print out and turn into licensure. And we'll talk more about that in another upcoming webinar for professional development. Here is the page where you see the professional development tab, and then the My Courses tab. Once you've signed up for a course, it will show up in the My Courses area down here under My Learning Opportunities, and you would just click the title to then enter into the course or the learning opportunity. Here again is our NCEES support site. Do go out here and check. We've updated our webinars for 2021, and I've also updated our online, which is not listed on the screen here, but our online support page has also been updated. It houses all our help guides out there as well. Kim is offering a new AP series again. Did you want to say anything about that, Kim, before we go?
Just if you have new assistant principals in your LEA, or you have a new assistant principal yourself as a school principal, please ask them to take a look at this new assistant principal series. We really build the agenda around timely topics that are applicable to the work of the AP, and they are able to submit questions or request clarification or presentations on different standards from the school executive standards, or just whatever topics that they feel they need support, more discussion. And it does create a support group for your APs, and we know that the AP position is a very isolated position. So we hope that this fills the need for a lot of LEAs across the state. We had a lot of success last year with more than 2,000 assistant principals participating, at least some during the school year. So please push this out. If you are not a new AP, please push this out to one that you know.
All right, and then the next few slides are all the webinars that we're offering this year. We've already done admin start of year with plans. The recording is linked here. And then we are doing beginning year principles right now. New user basics is next week. Beginning of year for teachers is the last week in the month. And then just look through the rest of those. Robert Sachs is actually going to do a webinar with us. We're very tickled about this. He is going to explain about understanding those teacher rubrics. That will be a 2-hour webinar, and we'll get that link just as soon out to you probably within the next couple of weeks. And then, Kim, did you want to say anything else about any other webinars you're holding? Or we're going to wrap this up in about 2 minutes.
No, just we do have, I would like to point out, we have a cultural leadership for principals where we look at the cultural leadership components of that standard, of the school executive standard. We just dive deeper and check. There's some others that we're offering, like instructional leadership. So if you have that particular standard as one of your PDP goal hubs, that's where you're linking your growth goals to, then attending this webinar offered would be a part of your progress towards meeting that goal. So it can be documented and linked there and hopefully beneficial.
Okay, so we've currently scheduled webinars through December. Here's a list of your DPI contacts. We're in the middle here, and then we do have advisory board members that meet with us quarterly. So for NCEES, you see those on the right there. And we don't have time to read through all those, but I'll let you read through those. And if you want to know who's the lead in a certain district, there's the link on the left. Here is your ServiceNow Support Center. They did get a new phone number, and now they have, within the last couple of weeks, a new URL, excuse me, a new URL to actually get to open the ticket to. So you need to bookmark this new URL. The old one is going to go within the month. Again, we will have a follow-up email, and the certificate of completion will actually come when, and I'll fix this slide, when you complete your feedback survey. You should receive that certificate within a couple minutes. So thank you for attending today. Again, here is your feedback survey link. Please do complete that. That will send you your certificate. If you have any issues, just email myself or Kim, and we'll check on your certificate. And we'll also send out that follow-up email with our questions that we've had today. So if we have no further questions, I'll look at chat real quick. How do we keep updated teacher licenses while we continue our work as a building administrator? That one was, Kim, do you have any idea? That one, they might want to run that question by Robert Sock. I think those questions.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yep, so Robert's email is similar to ours. It's robert.sox@dpi.nc.gov. If you'll email Robert, you can copy us on it if you want, and we'll follow up and get that question answered for you. And we'll include that in our follow-up email as well. And it is 5 o'clock right now. I don't see any other questions. So we're going to say good evening, and you guys have a great rest of your day.